Korea wasn't always two countries. For most of its history, Korea was one kingdom, one people, one culture. The division, north and south, feels permanent now. Two separate nations, different governments, different economies. 79 years of separation. But that's recent. Historically speaking, it's a blink. From 918 to 1392 CE, Korea was Goryeo, a unified Buddhist kingdom. 474 years. Not a vassal state pretending to be independent, not provinces loosely connected, a real kingdom with real power. Buddhist monks advised kings, temples owned land. Printing technology created the world's oldest movable metal type. And the name Korea? It comes from Goryeo. Then, Goryeo fell, and what replaced it? The Joseon dynasty made choices that eventually made division possible, not inevitable, but possible. This is the story of Korea before it split, when unity was normal, when Buddhism shaped politics, when Korean identity was being forged, and how that unity ended. Let me take you to 918 CE. The Korean Peninsula is chaos. Silla, the kingdom that unified Korea in 676 CE, is collapsing after 250 years. Regional warlords are carving out territories. Free kingdom emerging from Silla's corpse. Later Baekje, later Goryeo, and Silla itself barely surviving. This period is called the Later Three Kingdoms. Civil war, nobody winning, clearly peninsula fracturing. Then a general named Wang changes everything. Wang wasn't the strongest warlord, wasn't the richest, wasn't from royal blood, but he was smart. While other warlords fought, Wang negotiated. He married daughters of rival leaders, 6 wives from different regions, political marriages, building alliances. He offered defeated enemies positions in his government instead of execution. Former rivals became administrators. Inclusion over revenge. He based his capital at Kaesong, geographically central, strategically positioned. Not the old Silla capital. Capital, new beginning. And in 918 CE, he declared himself king. Founded Goryeo. Named after ancient Goryeo kingdom, claiming historical legitimacy. Here's the crucial decision Wang made. Buddhism, the state ideology. Not shamanism born Kaki. Not Confucianism born Buddhism. Why? Because Buddhism offered something unique, legitimacy without bloodline. In Confucian systems, kings ruled through hereditary right and mandate of heaven, cosmic approval based on moral virtue. If dynasty failed, heaven withdrew mandate. Instability built in. But Buddhist kingship worked differently. Kings were dharmaraja, protectors of Buddhist law. They ruled by supporting Buddhism, building temples, sponsoring monks. Legitimacy through religious merit, not just birth. This was brilliant for Wang.
He wasn't from old royal family. couldn't claim hereditary right, but he could claim Buddhist merit, could present himself as Dharma defender.
So he built temples, lots of temples, supported monasteries, made Buddhism central to state identity. By Goryeo's peak, Buddhist temples owned 1/3 of agricultural land. Monasteries were economic powerhouses. They operated like corporations, owning land, employing farmers, lending money, engaging in trade. Monks were educated elite. They studied Chinese classics, Buddhist texts, poetry, medicine. Temple schools educated future officials in tech. Monasteries were libraries, hospitals, banks. Some monks commanded armies during invasions. Warrior monks, Sungbyung, defended the kingdom. Religion and military combined. This wasn't corruption, it was system design. Buddhism wasn't separate from government, it was government's foundation. And the culture. Extraordinary. Goryeo Celadon pottery, jade green glaze. So perfect that even Chinese emperors admired it. The secret formula was closely guarded. Korean craftsmen achieved what Chinese potters couldn't. The Tripitaka Koreana, complete Buddhist scriptures carved onto 81,258 wooden printing blocks. Created twice, original destroyed by Mongols, rebuilt 1251, still exists today. UNESCO World Heritage. Technological and spiritual achievement combined. Movable metal type, invented in Goryeo around 1234. Jikji, a Buddhist text printed with metal type in 1377, is the world's oldest extant book printed this way. This wasn't peripheral culture, this was innovation. Korea was advancing technology, art, religion simultaneously. Goryeo maintained complex relationship with China. Song Dynasty China was powerful neighbor. Goryeo sent tribute, symbolic submission. Chinese emperors granted Korean kings titles, nominal superiority. But in practice, Goryeo was independent. They had their own government, laws, military, foreign policy. Chinese didn't station troops in Korea, didn't collect Korean taxes, didn't control Korean decisions. The tribute system was diplomatic theater. Goryeo performed subordination. China performed superiority. Both benefited, trade flowed, peace maintained, neither invaded the other. This worked for 2 centuries. Goryeo prospered, Buddhism flourished, culture peaked. Then, the Mongols arrived. 1231 CE. Mongol armies invade Korea. These aren't regular invaders. These are the Mongols who conquered China, Central Asia, Russia, Middle East. The most effective military force in human history. They want Goryeo's submission, complete, unconditional surrender. The Goryeo king refuses.
The royal court does something desperate. They flee to Ganghwa Island. It's just off the coast, close enough to govern, far enough to be defensible. Mongols were cavalry, dominant on land, useless on water. From 1232 to 1270, 38 years, the Korean government rules from an island while the Mongols devastate the mainland. The Mongols burn temples, destroy farms, kill civilians, try to force surrender through terror. But the island strategy works. Mongols can't reach the court, can't decapitate the government, can't force submission. And during this invasion, Korea does something remarkable. They carve the Tripitaka Koreana, all 81,258 printing blocks, complete Buddhist scriptures. Why? As prayer for protection, as an assertion of identity, as a refusal to surrender culturally, even while militarily overwhelmed. It takes 16 years, 1236 to 1251, during active invasion while kingdom is being destroyed. This is resistance through culture. We're being invaded, but we're creating this art. Finally, 1270, Goryeo negotiates. Not surrender negotiation. The king returns to the mainland, agrees to send tribute to the Mongols, provides troops for Mongol campaigns. In exchange, Goryeo keeps internal autonomy. Mongol puppet? Yes, but surviving, governing, maintaining identity. Yuan dynasty influences Korean politics. Mongol princesses marry Korean kings. Cultural exchange happens. Cuisine, clothing, art influenced. But, and this is crucial, Goryeo remains Goryeo. Not absorbed into Yuan dynasty, not made a Chinese province, a vassal relationship, not annexation. Then, in 1368, the Mongols lose. China, Ming dynasty, overthrows Yuan. Mongol Empire collapses. Their control over Korea ends. Goryeo is suddenly free. No more tribute to the Mongols, no more political interference. This should be liberation, new golden age. Independence restored. Instead, it triggers internal crisis that destroys the kingdom. Here's what happened. During the Mongol century, Buddhism became problem. Remember, temples owned 1/3 of land. Monks were educated elite. Monasteries were economic and political powers. This worked when Buddhism and state aligned, when kings were Buddhist, when the system functioned. But during Mongol period, corruption grew. Some temples became wealthy beyond religious purpose. Some monks were more political operators than spiritual practitioners. Land ownership, concentrated in monasteries, meant less land for government taxation, military families, common people. Buddhist institution, which gave Goryeo legitimacy for 300 years, was now straining the system. And a new ideology was rising: Neo-Confucianism.
This wasn't old Confucianism, bureaucracy, filial piety. This was Song Dynasty Chinese philosophical innovation, emphasizing moral cultivation, rational inquiry, social harmony through proper hierarchy. Korean scholars studying in China brought it with them, began teaching it, and gained followers among the Joseon community. And crucially, Neo-Confucians wanted land reform, wanted to break monastery land ownership, redistribute to government and military families. This created political fault line, Buddhist establishment versus Neo-Confucian reformers. Then add third factor, military families. Goryeo's northern border faced periodic threats, Jurchens, remnant Mongol forces, regional instability. Military families defending these borders gained power, land, influence, and one family, especially Yi Sungja. Brilliant general, successful campaigns, growing political base. He was also Neo-Confucian sympathizer, wanted reform, wanted to break Buddhist power, aligned with reformist officials. In 1392, King orders Yi Sungja to invade Manchuria, aggressive expansion plan. Yi Sungja refuses, marches his army to capital and state, stages coup. King is deposed, Yi Sungja becomes king. Found new dynasty, Joseon. Goryeo ends 474 years finished. And Yi Sungja doesn't just change dynasty, he changes system. Buddhism is suppressed, temples lose land, monasteries lose political power, monks lose status, state support ends, Neo-Confucianism becomes state ideology. Confucian academies replace temple schools. Capital moves from Kaesong to Hanyangpan. New dynasty, new capital, new beginning. This isn't just political change, this is civilizational transformation. Korea remade from Buddhist kingdom to Confucian state. Think about what disappeared. Buddhist Korea, where monks advised kings, temples shaped inclusive governance. Wang's model of incorporating rivals, building coalitions, replaced by hierarchical Confucian order. The Korea that gave the world its name, Goryeo, ended. And Joseon Korea, while culturally rich, was different, more rigid, more hierarchical, less inclusive. Joseon dynasty lasted 505 years, longer than Goryeo. But it was less flexible. When Japan invaded Korea, Korea nearly collapsed, only survived with Ming, Chinese intervention. This created psychological dependence. Korea needed outside help to survive. When Western powers arrived, Big Korea tried, closing borders completely, hermit kingdom. This rigidity made Korea vulnerable. When Japan forcibly opened Korea, Korea then colonized it, for Korea couldn't resist effectively. Japanese colonization was brutal, but Japan kept Korea unified. Division came after liberation, 1945. Soviet troops occupy north, American troops occupy south. Temporary arrangement for Japanese surrender. Temporary became permanent. Two states form, North Korea, 1948, South Korea, 1948, each claiming whole peninsula, each denying others legitimacy. Korean War, 1950 to 93, makes division concrete. Millions die. Now here's the provocative question. Did Goryeo's fall contribute to eventual division? Goryeo was flexible, inclusive, culturally confident, survived Mongol invasion, maintained identity under pressure. Joseon was rigid, hierarchical, resistant to change, nearly collapsed under Japanese invasion, became hermit kingdom when 20th century pressures came, Colonization, modernization, Cold War division. Did Joseon's rigidity make Korea more vulnerable? We can't know. History doesn't offer alternatives, but the question haunts. There's a museum in Seoul, National Museum of Korea. They have Goryeo's Celadon collection. I stood there once, looking at pieces 800 years old. Jade green glaze. These were made in unified Korea when Peninsula was one, when Buddhism shaped culture, when Korean identity was being forged. The craftsmen who made these didn't know their kingdom would fall, didn't know Buddhism would be suppressed, didn't know Korea would be divided 600 years later. They just made beautiful things, expressed their civilization through art. Kaesong, Goryeo's capital, is in North Korea now. It's 10 kilometers north of DMZ. Was once center of a unified kingdom. Now in one of the world's most isolated states. South Koreans can't visit, can't see the old palaces, the temple ruins, the historical sites where unified Korea was governed. Goryeo's capital is cut off from most Koreans by DMZ. But the Tripitaka Koreana, those 81,258 printing blocks, carved during Mongol invasion, still exist. They're at Hainsa Temple, South Korea, UNESCO World Heritage Site. Still preserved, still there. You can visit, see the blocks, wooden, ancient, complete Buddhist scriptures carved in crisis, surviving into present. They represent something, Goryeo's determination to maintain identity under pressure, to create beauty during destruction, to assert civilization when being invaded. That spirit, that's what unified Korea created. Every time someone says Korea, they're saying Goryeo Korea. The name Korea comes from Goryeo. Chinese called it Gaoli. Arabic travelers Korea. The world named this peninsula after the unified Buddhist kingdom, not after divided states. Today's question, can Korea reunify? Politically, seems impossible. Two systems, two ideologies, two governments, 79 years of separation, North Korea's isolation. But historically, Korea was unified for longer than it's been divided. Goryeo, 474 years unified. Silla, before it, 250 years unified. Division is the exception, not the rule. Historically speaking, Korean unity is normal. Division is anomaly. Last thought. Imagine standing at DMZ, looking north. You're standing in land that was once Goryeo Unified Kingdom. The land is same, mountains, rivers, soil unchanged. What changed is born. But land remembers. Culture remembers. People remember on both. And maybe someday we'll be one again. Not soon. Because Goryeo proved unity works. For 474 years it worked. That memory matters. Korea before it split. When it was Goryeo. When it was one.